Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Amy Rose White, integrative psychotherapist. Thanks for being here with me today. Let's talk about COVID and divorce. Highly Googled search words. Unfortunately, the pandemic has increased the rates of divorce. Well, I guess I would say fortunately or unfortunately, and I'll explain more what I mean as we go along here. But it's a real concern for people who have been legally married and are really concerned whether they're legally married or not. They're just that whether their partnership is going to survive this. And I will tell you, the pandemic, for sure, as a couples therapist and person who sees lots of individuals as well who are concerned about their relationship, it's really highlighted a few main things. One, cracks in the foundation. So if there was some troublesome areas in your relationship, maybe they've been there for a long time, maybe they haven't, maybe there's a perpetual problem that or argument you kind of keep going back to. Maybe there was one person that really didn't want to get married in the first place. Maybe there's an untreated addiction that's sort of been simmering back in the, scenes, behind the scenes for a long time. Whatever it is, COVID-19, this pandemic of 2020 going into 2021 now, although hopefully it's starting to lift, it's done a lot of revealing. So all of those cracks have become like, look at the cracks in my hands. It's like that. It's like in your face. All those cracks have been revealed. Now, why? Well, too much time together, for one. We just are meant to have, boundaries and physical space and emotional space and psychological space from our partners. We're not supposed to be with them 24/7. So anyone's going to get on your nerves because of that. But also it has really, that too much togetherness time has forced, again, ourselves to really see who we're with and also see ourselves and our shadow, that darker side of our own personality that might seek to be controlling or aggressive or sneaky or lying or whatever those sort of, aspects of our personality that we don't want to acknowledge we have. The intensity of the pandemic has brought those all to light. Now, of course, even for the strongest of relationships with maybe fewer cracks, because we all have them, just the stress alone of this ambiguous pandemic and the influence it's had on economic changes and school changes, obviously health concerns, the stress alone will make us act in very different ways than we typically would because our brain is dysregulated. Often people right now have not been getting good sleep for a long period of time, and that changes all the neurochemicals in our brain. So lots of people are basically having mild to moderate forms of anxiety or depression, or if they had anxiety or depression in the past, it's on fire now. Even people who don't consider themselves to have any mental health history have been finding themselves snappy, irritable, angry, withdrawn, isolating, all types of symptoms that obviously don't work well in a relationship, in a partnership. So some of those deeper issues are right here. And then we have a whole bunch of sort of, very normative stressor issues that are causing conflict. So let's talk about big cracks, the big crack folks, because that's kind of oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. I'm not going to edit that out. So for those of you with relationships where there's some large foundational problems, that's kind of one camp. I mean, gosh, don't we all need to just laugh right now? Insert foot into mouth. And then there's sort of folks where I think if we look at the stressors as an invitation into increased intimacy, we can actually see some relationships that are stronger. So I do think that we're going to see some folks recognizing what relationships really are maybe toxic, dysfunctional, or simply not working, not serving them or their families anymore, versus the folks that can really focus on learning some concrete tools and skills that we're going to talk about today to get the relationship through into 2021 and make it from now on, maybe with an increased strength and vitality in the relationship. Now, for the folks that have the foundational issues, the big cracks, really people are faced with making some hard choices right now, because when we have all this kind of silence and quiet, well, on one level in terms of, just not being out in the world. If you have children, you have no silence and no quiet in your life. So there's this constant chaos. Either way, the feelings, the bodily sensations, and the emotions in your body will have become percolating up to the point that you can't deny them. And that's going to force you to confront your own truth. Is this person still right for me? Were they ever right for me? And what needs to change? And can we both change together? Because major issues in a relationship can absolutely be navigated if both parties are willing and able. And I think that's what the pandemic has really forced into the limelight, as well as what is our willingness and capacity truly? When the going gets rough, how deep can we dig into ourselves to show up and be the loving, compassionate partner we want to be, so that we can receive that in kind? And who we have chosen that just simply does not have that willingness and capacity. So it's a make it or break it time when you recognize, one of those two things. We can move forward and dig deep together, or one can and one can't, and therefore, what's the next best choice? And I actually think ultimately, although there's going to be a lot and are already a lot of transitions for so many people in their relationships during this pandemic and going into 2021, ultimately I believe that will lead to more whole, more healthy people who can provide a better example for their children if the situation that they've been in is simply not healthy, not functional, not the model of the kind of relationship we want for our children if you happen to have them. So for the folks with the little cracks, who are snapping at each other or thinking like, I just don't even like you anymore. Why do we get married? Like, you're so annoying. You just breathe in the wrong direction and I want to like throw you across, out the door. Let's talk about but there isn't maybe an underlying issue that you are starting to realize is that it's just non-negotiable anymore. That requires, in order to get stronger through all this, we can make it attitude, like being on the same team. And especially for those of you that have kids, what I'm saying, especially when there's divergent beliefs around how to deal with COVID, do we send the kids to school? Do we not send them to school? Do we see family? Do we not see family? How social should we be? Should we travel, not travel? The more you can be aligned and on the same team and willing to compromise to get on the same team, the higher likelihood of success in the relationship. That's very, very important. Now, essentially, the best couples strengthening tool I can give you in this brief video is to never make your partner wrong. So I'm going to say that again because it's sort of like, what do you mean? And we argue someone's wrong and someone's right. And it's like, no, that's actually very highly correlated, that attitude, with divorce. So we want to be able to allow our partner to be right in their perspective, in their shoes, with their life history, with their perception of what they heard you say, or how they saw a situation go down with you and your kid, or whatever it is. So to not make your partner wrong means a commitment to setting aside your own agenda around disagreements, making a committed time every week to hear each other, and simply listening. Tell me more. Tell me more about that. Okay, help me understand it. Why is that important to you? What is your dream scenario? What's your disaster scenario? And then conveying somehow to them the message of, I get it. That makes sense. That's not crazy. I can see where you're coming from. And then seeing if once that your partner feels hurt by you, if you can switch and take turns, not to belittle that person or name call or tell them why they're wrong, but to simply using I statements, share your perspective, how you're feeling, what your dream for the scenario is, what your disaster scenario is, what you're afraid of, so that you can then have a conversation about compromise. But until that conversation happens in such a way that neither person is trying to win, and the goal is to both feel right and validated, essentially, in and understood in your feelings and needs, then you can move forward with a lightness and an understanding. And that really helps strengthen the friend bond. And that is also highly correlated with marriages that stay together or any kind of healthy relationship that's long term, is remembering why you liked each other in the first place. Not just love or passion or sex or attraction, but genuinely like each other. And if you can focus on that, you're going to get stronger through COVID, I promise you. Now, all couples need a little bit of time apart. If there's even 15 minutes a day that you can be alone in a room with silence, maybe if you have children, the partner takes them outside, even bundles them up in the cold if you live in the Northern Hemisphere like I do, really gives each other at least 15 to 30 minutes a day of just time alone, not to accomplish tasks, but to just take care of yourself and regroup. Breaks from children, if you're a parent, are essential. And if you feel like you're equally taking turns each day, that will build trust in the relationship again. Because we're meant to have boundaries. We're not, again, of all kinds, we're not meant to be together all of the time. If there's any way you can ask for more help and support if you do have kids, I encourage you to do that now. Even, your finances are your finances, but this is a time to get into debt because this is crisis. If you need to go into debt to pay a babysitter, if that's a COVID thing that you're comfortable with, if you need to hire housekeeping support and you kind of are like, oh, we don't want to spend the money. If it's going to improve your relationship personally, I say do it. That's just my opinion. And then, of course, changing your expectations together about what is realistic. A lot of folks I'm working with are fighting about the kids doing well in school. Look, I'm a child development expert. I will tell you, don't worry about it. And my best friend, who's an educator, we just had a walk last night and she said the same thing. She just said, it just doesn't matter. We should have taken the whole year off. And another friend of mine suggested, why didn't we just have day camps? So kids that didn't have safe homes or necessarily or needed, a safe place to be more than anything for school and food could come and watch movies and learn crafts. And we just had day camp 2020, 2021. And I was like, that was brilliant. I love that. We do social distancing and masks. And why didn't we do that? Why did we put parents through the stress of trying to get the, second grader to learn to read this year? It's just people, they'll make it up later. We'll figure it out. It's not an emergency to get even my kids that are near college age almost. It's oh, I've been so worried about, are they going to graduate? Are they going to drop out? And I finally just came to the place of, their mental health and our relationship is all that matters. So if you're a parent that is struggling around your relationship because of disagreements about kids, I would really encourage you to try to focus on what absolutely matters right now, because this pandemic is not going to last forever, but the relationships, the opportunities that we have now are really substantial to focus on what is actually important. Now, my last tip for those of you with the small cracks, I'm making myself laugh today, focus on a goal. I encourage you to pick a goal. It might be a puzzle with 1,000 pieces. It might be training for a 10K race. It might be a financial goal that you have. I would encourage you to make it somewhat tangible in some way. Maybe it's building something. Maybe it's designing something that you want to build in the summertime when the weather changes. I really encourage you to have a common, constructive, creative goal that you're working towards together, creative or physical. And when we do that, we, again, have the experience of remembering why we chose our person in the first place, why they're fun, why they're interesting, how they make us laugh. And it gives a sense of purpose and future orientation that a lot of us are really grasping for right now. It's can we make summer plans? I don't know. So much grief around plans and traditions and things that typically happen that have had to go by the wayside this year. So focusing on something in the future that is tangible and doable that we know now, even if the 10K race is we're going to do it together, with the neighbors 20 feet away, in 3 months, we're going to make our own race, whatever that is, depending on where you are. If you're in true lockdown, if you're in certain parts of Europe, Asia that are locked down, you can't even leave your house, find a different goal that is future oriented, that is something you really can accomplish. And then write down some concrete steps on what needs to happen to make that dream come true, to make that goal a reality. So I hope this has been useful to you. Divorce is painful. It is a heartbreak no matter what. I believe most of us can strengthen our relationships and move forward into 2021. And for those of us who decide, okay, this is time to part ways, this is no longer working, I believe there's a healthier, happier, more fulfilling life for every party involved in the future. It requires just going step by step by step, trusting yourself and loving yourself every step of the way. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing to this channel. Until next time, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be at peace. I'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.